today's topic is about introduction to FAST API. Now, what is FAST API? FAST API is a web-based modern framework used to design APIs in Python. Now, moving towards moving towards ahead, first we have to know what is API. So let's take a look. What does first API stand for? API stand for Application Program Interface, which help us to communicate and make a gateway to our products and database which can communicate with each other. Now, why do API needed? API is needed, as I told, for a gateway. Okay, then all the developer uses APIs of different policies, content, and more on and more on. Now, what are the benefits of the API? API are simply integratable, efficiency, and scalability. It provides security of our data and interoperability and innovation to the consumer. Now, what are the types of API? There are four major types of API. One is public API, second is private API, and third is partner, and fourth is composite. Now, what does a public API means? Public APIs are the APIs that are commonly available and open source. Example are Google Chrome, Google Maps, etc. What are private APIs? That are being followed by the company itself. Means if you are working in a company, the company has APIs of the users in which they get users API. In user API, they get a name of the user ID and all the things that are needed in the community. So they are all private API. What are the partner API? Now, partner APIs are been given by the partners. Like we are using commonly the partners APIs of PayPal, Stripe. The API that are called partner API that gives us some amount of data so we can execute our work and make the app more faster and integrate the functionality in our web or a mobile application. And other is composite API which are being used. Now, what are the main methods and common methods of API being used? Some of the main common methods used in APIs are get, post, put, delete, fetch. Now, what does a get do? Get means, as name suggests, it gets the value. In get, the parameters are passed in the URL and we can access the parameter through URL string. As you have seen that in URL some of the parameter like name, question mark, then it goes that our name name is in the URL, you can see. How does it takes? So the API or a method of HTTP, it takes it from the URL and do other tasks in the following manner the logic is specified. Now, what is post? Post is also a method of the API. Now, why does the post is more useful? Because post does not send in the URL all the information of our post, combine it and send in a request and response manner. So in request we have to make a request from the user end to database end and communicate with the request and response variable. That is more efficient and more security to the information of the customer or a developer. And put, delete, fetch are all other method you can explore more on the Google. So here are some of the APIs that are being used. You can see that Stripe, ChargeBee, Webhooks, equally all needs API to be communicate. So let's take a look on the format of JSON API request. The format is simple. First we need the URL of the API where the API is been stored. So As you can see in the example, first there is a URL. Now we have to define some of the variables. What are the method, how is the body being passed, and what is the content type, and what is the UTF formatting, and other as we need. You can see in the example that I have used post. So it is a post method which is calling an API. The body I am passing in the JSON format. Header specify that the content is in application JSON format. Now in here you can use form data multipart. If you want to upload a file to database you through API, you can use the content type is equals to multi-part form data, which will be helping you in uploading the file to the form data. Then you get the response back in the response JSON if you have provided. Otherwise it will give back the code like 200 if successfully API granted or reached. Now today's agenda, let's go today's agenda. What is FAST API? Key feature, installation and setup, creating a simple API, advanced feature and use case and benefits. Now what is FAST API? FAST API, as I told, it is a modern web framework built on Starkly and Pandatic. High performance, easy to learn, and standard high. Let's take a look on key features. Why we are using Python Fast API? Because asynchronization in the capability is high in the performance. It is open, built on API, open API and JSON format, so it is easy to send and receive data. One of the main key feature of it is automatic docs. If you have been doing a API or working with the API in the Node.js, you have ever gone with that the swagger has to be written. So other person can manipulate with the swagger UI and take an idea that how the API has to get a parameter and the response will come. But in the fast API we do not have to write swagger. It is been automatically generated by itself. Data validation is powered by Pandatic in the fast API, and async and await is commonly used. And now what are the steps to install and set up? So we require a Python version 3.7. We have to install fast API and Ubicon if you need it. So these the pip install fast API is a command to install the library of fast API in it. And how to run the web I will be showing in live demo. So here I have kept a normal function example. I'm not going to show it now, but going to practical it so you can understand more after the cell sign. Now what are the advanced feature? Advanced feature are path and query parameters. We can dynamically URL with the we can give the URL with dynamically validation in the fast API. Dependency injection can be given through fast API. Security authentication as auth to JVT token etc. has been supported. Custom logic has been made by ourselves to manage more easily. As I have told, what are the automatic API? So now these what are the use cases? Building a RESTful API and microservice web model. Okay, it all been done. What are the benefits? It is high developer productivity, It reduces bugs due to high hints and validation. Yeah, it is true. It reduces the bugs in the code because the code is been separated in small chunks. So that's why the code bugs has been removed. It scales the performance and production rate. What are the real world examples being used? Some of the real world examples are Microsoft, Uber, Netflix, and popular open sources use this fast API model. At the end, the summary is fast API combines speed, simplicity, and modern feature. Ideal for developer looking building API effort. Now take a look how to use API in the live. So as you can see here, this is my main file in Python. Now you are wondering about why we have defined a base model fast API. I will explain the code in it and you will be getting more easy to understand it. First, we are importing fast API from fast API and pendetic from base model, and setting a data variable to store data in the file. As you know, in Java and OOPS we have a constructor in which the basic definition of the variable and the const are been given. So here also the same method goes. We have to define a class and item object that has been name, year and project can be passed through API format. We have to create an object of fast API through app, a variable name app. You can use any of the you want to write into post API in browser. You have to use the app name, the object you made out from the fast API. As here you can see that app.post and the path you want to specify. You can see here the items path /item. So if ever I go in the item in the path where the /items is there, then I can access this function from there. So add a data to the function. I am appending a data coming outside from the URL to a data global variable, and this is the default route what we'll be using for default means slash. If I go on the 127.0.0.0.1 IP slash, then I will get access to hello world function. If I get see over here, we have method to be clarified after the app dot that what method are you using, app.post, app.get, as that way. In app.get I am taking out all the data from the data through this function. So now let's take a look how this work in main live. So to run this you can use simply fast API dev main py, the name of the file, and press enter. You can see the server is been started. Now you can go over here and control click, then it will redirect you to the page. Now you can see over here that hello world. I have told you that only slash will be my hello world program, as you can see over here, that add the slash no return path, only slash gives me the hello world function access. Now let's take a look on. So now we are gone on the items tab. So you can see that I have not added any item, so the item is showing null. I have mentioned that Fast API has a Swagger documentation by automatic, so you can access by going on docs path. See over here it gives listed 3 APIs. Yeah, you made 3 APIs in just a second. So the first is for item, to get items. Now let's add some items. So you can try it out by like this way. So as using a name here, and execute. On the execute you can see that it gives the message that item added successfully. If you have an error, then it generates the code like 200 for successful response, 422 for validation error, and so on, so more on as you need. Now add another items, Dev, and let's change it to Fast API stream and execute it. See the data added successfully. Now you can pass it in pass lots of data like headers. In header you can pass token which help to authenticate that the user is valid and proper, that can access your API, and more on. Let's now go and try it out to fetch the data. So in the get API we can fetch the data more. So I'm fetching data without the parameter. It will return me whole the data. See over here we can see that both the entries that have been executed had been came out through the using this function. Now you are knowing that what is called. No, then let's tell me. This call can be used in the Postman for the APIs to be run in the Postman and managed more frequently in the Postman. It's provide all the path and the information we has been given here. Let's suppose if I am giving over here the item. See in this call it specifies that the method is post. The API URL is given. H specify header. H mean header. Header accept the application JSON format. Another header option specify that its contact type is in application JSON. In the data tab, in the data tab we are JSONifying the format like name is equals to Dev, year is equals to 225, and project name. Now let's take a look by items, directly calling it through URL. Yeah, we got the same. But looking in this is to look better on the Swagger. This is more benefits in UI. Yeah, if you have any question, you feel free to ask. And for more information, you can go and visit this Fast API documentation in GitHub repository of the Fast API and get more insight from there. Thank you.